Emmerich Tuer program. Madam Ambassador, thank you very much for doing this interview and being part of this program.
Nazim, thanks so much for inviting me.
We will start this interview with the NATO summit. Very important, not only because of anniversary, 75 years, it's a big anniversary, but also because this summit happens when a war is going on in Europe, in Ukraine. So the peace somehow is threatened in Europe. So how important it was this summit from this aspect?
Well, thank you for asking that question. It is incredibly important. I think you'll agree, and your viewers will agree, that it is remarkably important not only to mark the 75th anniversary of this organization that is so crucial to security in Europe, but as you say, especially in the context of a war going on in the European continent, and it has really strengthened NATO. And so to have North Macedonia represented by the Prime Minister and his ministers, several of whom are in Washington with me now, including the new Minister of Defense, is an important symbol to the alliance and frankly to the world that this country is an important player in this alliance, has been since it joined NATO, and joining with the other leaders, recognizing the importance of this. And let me just say, I saw that the Prime Minister and the ministers have indicated that they will support the G7 Plus declaration on support for Ukraine, and that is such a critical message, not only to Russia and its allies, but also to the world, that NATO is stronger today than ever, and that they stand together united.
A very important aspect you underline, because this is what I really wanted to ask you in that sense. Do you think that is fully understood the importance of this decision? I mean, in the declaration, there is a quote saying that NATO will support Ukraine as much as is needed. And this is important for people to understand why. Do you think that the grasp of this important message is being understood?
Well, it talks about the fact that they are moving towards Ukraine's membership in NATO. There is a differentiation between those that are moving towards that path, as this country knows better than most, versus those that are members of the alliance. And so the indication that everything is being done to move them forward towards full membership in and as full allies in NATO is very important. And it's also a declaration, and we've seen it from a number of countries since this week began, of their pledges and their support ongoing to the security of Ukraine, to providing the defensive equipment and materials that they need, just as this country has done since the very beginning of Russia's attack, invasion, illegal invasion of Ukraine. And so this is a great message to the broader world.
Yeah, North Macedonia is the fourth country by capita, you know, to support Ukraine. And I know that a lot of officials has underlined this as very, very important. On the other hand, the Prime Minister said something else from Washington, that the minimum 2% of GDP, it will go to support the reform of the North Macedonian army. How important is this decision for you?
I did not see that quote, and so I can't comment on it. I did see a quote where both he and the Minister of Defense reaffirmed their commitment to the minimum of 2%. There's a variety of ways in which NATO allies can meet that 2%. I don't know the details of what the plan is, but what is important to me as the American ambassador here in Skopje is that reaffirmation and the commitment that I have heard from both of them individually as well, that commitment to NATO remains strong, that they recognize the importance of meeting that 2%, which frankly far larger countries have not done. And so I welcome that, and the details of which I look forward to hearing more.
Okay, we will leave that from the other and from the future and aspect. But when we are at Ukraine and North Macedonia and the new government, and I see that you support a lot what the government and the ministers are saying, but it has been a situation here when a government minister, a very high official, a vice prime minister, a very high position, Mr. Stoilkovic, he in the past had made clear that he supports Moscow. Is this a concern, or should the people see this as dualism somehow?
Well, first of all, let me say, and this is very important, Azim, the United States, and I, as the representative of the United States in North Macedonia, strongly support the people of this country. The current government was elected by historic margins to represent them and their goals for the future. And so it is in our best interest as the United States to help this government, its ministers, to achieve their goals. As I've said in the past, I don't know this particular gentleman. I haven't met him. I find many of his remarks that I've seen on social media and heard to be offensive. But let's see what that ministry is actually empowered to do. I know some of the responsibilities have changed. So when I say that I support the people of this country and its government, that is in our programs. That is not to say individually, I don't care what you ever said in the past, we're all best friends now. That's not how diplomacy works. So I want to do everything in my power with my colleagues at the embassy to support the success of this country through its government that was duly elected by the voters, because their success, the success of this country, represents all of our success.
Well, this, in the opinion, it was or some people would have seen as a contradiction, because on the other hand you support Ukraine and then you have a minister that it has a different opinion. So that's why the question comes up. But another contradiction somehow in our country, it was the use of the name, of the constitutional name. So the Prime Minister was in Washington and the interest was high, as you know, for a lot of reasons. There is a reaction from the Greek media that the use of the constitutional name was not used in the speech as it was supposed to be used. So I know this question has been made several times, but now in the context of the first visit, international visit, the way that the name should be used, how should we see this debate? Should we still continue and debate about it, or should it be over? And coming from Washington, you know, this reaction is coming even today.
I am not aware that there has been in any of the official announcements of the Prime Minister that he has failed to use the constitutional name of this country. I could be wrong, because again, I have not seen all of the updated information. We have had the conversation, and I have said repeatedly, and Washington has said, and the spokesperson has said, that it is critical to respect international agreements, that PRESPA was an extraordinary and historic agreement that opened the way for the Macedonian Prime Minister to be at the NATO summit. And so, again, I haven't seen those. It would be inappropriate for me to comment without, but it is critically important that we stick to our international agreements, and I think we've made that very clear.
In that context, I mean, the PRESPA agreement, I'm sure you agree, and I not only agree, I've heard you saying it, that it was difficult to achieve, it was historic, but yet it's international agreement, and then the government should respect it. But let me rephrase the question. How the government is viewed from outside, let's say, when the debate is should or shouldn't the agreement be implemented? You know,
again, for the United States, as the ambassador here, and we've made plain, respect the international agreement. It was not only difficult, but I know that there are many in this country who still chafe at PRESPA, who still resent having to change the name of this country, just as they are unhappy about having to change the flag and many other aspects of it. It's an international agreement. And again, I have not seen details in which the Prime Minister or his ministers have used one or the other, but in what I have observed, in those formal documents that they have used, in the formal statements, they have used Republic of North Macedonia, as they did when they took the oath, which we warmly welcomed. And again, it is my hope that this international agreement, as you say, a historic one, is respected so that we can move on and talk about the important aspects of the relationship, not only with NATO allies and within the Euro-Atlantic community, but also with their neighbors like Greece, like Bulgaria, so they can talk about important things like trade, the economy, energy, combating corruption, opportunities for young people in this country. That's what the conversation should be about.
I will quote you about this debate. You said that debating about constitutional names is a distraction or defocusing of the other issues, as you just mentioned, or the focus is in who said what rather than the most important thing. So my question is,
I don't think I said that. I don't think that's an exact quote.
But do you think that the government lost the opportunity in a way to leave this issue behind and focus on other important issues?
I don't think that the Prime Minister or his ministers did. It is unfortunate that the President, when she took her oath of office, failed to use the constitutional name of the government. And I think we have seen that has resulted in a constant discussion of whether or not out of the presidency, out of that cabinet, what the statements say, what the documents look like, what, this type of thing. And frankly, that is a distraction from the issues that are of importance to the voters of this country. And so in what I have observed thus far, are there times when I'm sure the Prime Minister could have availed himself of the constitutional name and has not? That is probably the case. I haven't been keeping track. And in my conversations with ministers, what we have talked about and with him is the future of this country and what it looks like and what we as the United States can do to help support the aspirations of the citizens of this country.
But do you think that the new government somehow plays with nationalism? Because when we, and you have suggested, and a lot of international other figures have suggested that it is very hard to renegotiate the agreements, like the EU agreement for integration or PRESPA agreement, and yet we have this narrative which kind of goes in the line of being nationalist. So do you think that this issue after the election, after everything what happened, after the international reaction, will kind of be put away, so then we can focus on the other issues?
Listen, as you know very well, we're not in the EU. The United States, I am ambassador only to one country, gratefully, and can only speak for the United States. And my understanding from my very dear friend, the EU ambassador David Geer, is that there is no renegotiation on the French proposal, as it's called, and I leave that to them. That is a decision for the European Union. We do very much support the goals of the